I'm going to get started with the bodice of the dress. I'm going to do a semi-sweetheart neckline with just a little curve in the middle, and then I'm going to add in the side seams of the bodice, just straight lines going down to the waist, and then I will add in my waist seam at the natural waist, so the smallest part of my figure. Next I will add in my hem lines. I have one at the top of a ruffle and then one at a bottom. These are just squiggly lines that I'm going to connect on both sides to make it symmetrical. These squiggly lines will reflect the ruffle and how the fabric folds in on itself. Next I will connect that to the waist in sort of a bell shape to give that voluminous effect of the gown. I'm going to add in princess seams on the bodice and then some gathering at the waist with some pull lines just showing how the fabric is falling in on itself, and this really gives the effect of the voluminous dress. Make sure to add pull lines on those ruffles from the hem up to the seam, and then add gathering along that ruffle seam as well. Gathering can be shown with just some squiggle lines. Try to write out in cursive, my, and that will be a good starter for gathering. I'm going to add some drag lines just on the ruffle, and then I'm going to add the back of the ruffle as well. Now I'm going to go over my work with a black pen. I'm just going to trace over the lines that I like best, and I'm not going to worry too much about connecting my lines or having them be too perfect. I like them to look sketchy and hand-drawn. So I'm just going to roughly go over the lines that I put down and highlight the shape. I'm going to be careful to make sure I go over the pull lines that I put down as well, because this is what's going to give the dress movement. Don't forget about the ruffle hem. There should be about twice as many pull lines on this ruffle as there is on the rest of the gown. Next, I'm just going to roughly go over my gathering that I put in. I'm just going to lightly go over a few lines in the back of the dress. My next step is to erase all of my pencil marks. In doing this, I might realize that I forgot to go over a few lines with my pen, and that's just fine. I will go back and trace over those once I'm done erasing. Next, I'm going to take my colored pencils. I'm going to make my dress red and pink, and I am going to start shading in with the color. I'll go back in later with a gray colored pencil to really shade in, but for now I'm going to show the color through the shadows. I'm going to go right inside of the folds of the dress. This is where light is going to recede the most, so a good rule of thumb is to shade in on the right and left of the pull lines that you created. This is where the shadows are really going to be prominent in the dress. Also make sure you get in the gathering because the fabric is really bunched up in gathering. So there's not going to be much light um, trapped inside there. Next, I'm going to take my red colored pencil and just lightly sketch out a little design into the dress. I'm going to do a big red magnolia pattern on this, and I'm going to start out in the spot with the most surface area. So right across the chest, there's an uninterrupted space, and I'm going to start my motif there so you can get a real sense of what the rest of the pattern is supposed to look like on the dress. I'm just going to mimic that floral shape onto the rest of the bodice. Every time there's a seam line, so on the bodice, these princess seams, this is where the print is going to be interrupted. So to make the dress look really lifelike, you're going to want to pay attention to where you did draw lines and then make sure to stop a print and then start again on the other side of the line. For instance, on these pole lines, the fabric is folding in on itself, so this is interrupting the print on the dress here. And I'm taking careful note of that for the rest of the dress. I'm just going to keep filling in with my print. You can use any type of motif you like. I tend to use a vine print because I find that it just takes up space the easiest and the most effective. Next, I'm just going to take a black or gray colored pencil and lightly fill in the back side of this skirt. Since it is a high-low hem, you can see the underside of it, and I want to make sure that that information is kept available. Be careful not to draw on the legs because the dress is behind the legs. Next, I'm going to take a red marker, pen is fine too, and I'm just going to highlight the print just in a few spots just to make it pop a little bit more. I'm going to go over the print very lightly. I don't want it to look too outlined. Next, I'm going to go back in with my red colored pencil and I'm just going to try and deepen the shadows and then also add a little bit of a blush tint to the rest of the dress. Now that we've added some good definition to it, I want to make sure that the dress appears to be pink. I'm going to pay close attention to where the light is receding, so at the waistline, in those gathers, in the folds of the fabric, and at the ruffle hem. Next, I'm going to take a gray marker and I'm just going to do exactly what I just did and put in some more shadows just to the right and left of the pole lines and along the gathering. I'm going to concentrate the most of this gray marker in those big gather motifs because there's so much fabric bunched up there that I want to make sure that it's known that there's a lot of bulk. I'm also going to shade in around the body just so you can see that the bust is shaped. And then I'm going to go right underneath the hem of the dress because that'll cause a shadow as well. Now I'm just going to pop the legs in front just a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit of definition to the underside of the skirt. I'm going to add just a touch more shadowing just to make sure that everything's popping the way I like it. And there we go. That is our Georgiana gown.